Hey, Tesla Model Y. So this is a car that I'm considering leasing next year. So obviously Tesla, huge buzz on the company. The stock's been going crazy. So, and you can kind of see why in their cars that they're doing so well. And I'm just gonna do some analysis on the Model Y, a car that I'm considering leasing in 2021. So in my family, I have two kids and my wife, so I'm looking for a family hauler. And I think that this car, what they've done with it recently, and the news about it and the price cuts have made this really attractive. And you can see why the company's doing really well. And let's get into it. So with this car, it was released this year, and in Canada, they recently did a price drop of $6,000. So that took the price on the car from, basically it was in the 70s. So if we look here, now the price for the long range is 70,000. So before the price cut, it was around 77,000, which made it, 10-20% above some of the luxury CUV standard SUV competition. So to bring it into the 60s alone is really big deal because it puts it, within 5 grand, 10 grand of the competition. And the other big development on this car recently in Canada was that they initially made the car purchase only. You had to pay cash or finance it. But a few this was pretty recent, 3 weeks ago, not even a month ago, that they did leasing. So it made this car more attractive to me. One, with the price cut and with the leasing, because leasing was something I had done for the last few years. And I'll make another video of why I lease the cars versus purchase or finance it. But that price cut put it within range, and leasing was something that I had done in the past, so it made it more attractive. So the base price they only have two models. I thought that they would have a standard range, which I think has about 300, 400 range. That was announced, when they were talking about the Model Y a few years ago. But they've decided to just go with long range, which I think has 500K km range, and a performance which is, just a lot faster. You can see the 0 to 100 times, 0 to 60 times in 3.7 and 5 seconds, which is insanely fast. That is basically like equivalent to a Macan GTS, which has 0 to 100 in 4.9. So Tesla is like 4.8. So, the Macan is a lot more expensive just in base, 80,000. So once you add on options, you're going to be pushing 80, 90,000. So the performance value alone in this car is quite high, but you're making the comparison of EV versus gas. So it might be very different, but in electric, the acceleration is instant, right? Because the torque is generated instantly. So, you can have these insane accelerations, which is a big plus for the Tesla Model Y. Although as a family hauler, I'm not looking to go, 0 to 60 in 4 seconds. So this is not really a major consideration for me, but definitely a plus. So if we look, let's go into kind of just the background, why I was interested in this car. I think it's pretty clear just from the news that's been on this car, and I think there's tons of other articles and YouTubes about why this car is very interesting and has crazy amount of innovation. But this auto engineer Sandy Monroe, like, he has very interesting breakdowns of the car where he basically strips the car apart, and there's tons of YouTube and articles on it. But he basically lists a lot of the innovations in this car and how it's different from other EVs, and he states it's the best Tesla in their lineup, much better than the Model 3. And Tesla has Elon Musk coming from many different startups and having kind of a startup mentality to each of his countries. The innovation in the company is just like relentless. I can see that when they don't have kind of typical standard model launches. They're always innovating their products constantly. So, I was talking to a Tesla representative, and he told me that, it doesn't really matter, when you order like a 2021 or a 2022 car. like typically when I've gone to lease a car, like they give discounts on, say, the current model year because they're going to receive the next model year, and the next model year is going to have like all the improvements. But the associate was telling me that, they kind of have a startup mentality where there's never they're always innovating the end product constantly. Whereas the traditional automakers, they try to batch a lot of their improvements over time in the next model or incrementally per quarter. But Tesla, they try to push this innovation boundary in manufacturing constantly, which is very interesting. Like it's taking, a methodology or mindset in startups and applying it to manufacturing, which is probably why they've been so successful and been able to disrupt this industry quite a bit. But if we go back to Sandy, the auto analyst, like he lists many innovations that's unique to the Model Y. And one thing is this mega casting, which I found is like super interesting. That typically, the rear seat or the rear part of the car is welded from like 70 different pieces, like in the Tesla Model 3, or even other competitors have this rear plate out of many different weldings, but Tesla's building a very large, essentially casting to make this large under part of the car from one piece of metal, which improves stability, manufacturing time. There's many improvements and of having something like this, and he also goes to address the welding and the fit and finish on the car. There's been a lot of concerns on the fit and finish, of the end product and the delivery on the car. You can see there's a lot of articles and videos, describing pretty bad panel gap actually. But, it seems to be from articles I've read that they're improving over time and that their quality is getting better. So I'm hoping, I'm looking to order this car probably April 2021. So I'm hoping the quality control issues will be better addressed, and this won't exist in another year or so. He mentions also the wiring. He that other cars have like 1.5 kilometers of wiring to just 700 meters of wiring in the Model Y. So I think this goes back to the kind of like Tesla innovation, where they're trying to minimize wiring, and typically in cars nowadays, the main problem or like a lot of the issues with the new cars is actually the electronics. So to minimize unnecessary systems and manufacturing is really good for Tesla in terms of reliability and production, especially when in a car that's very technologically advanced. If you can make it advanced and also reliable and streamlined, that's a very big plus for Tesla. And new to the Model Y is that they introduced a heat pump. So you can see that, a really big issue with EVs is that their effective range drops in the wintertime. So Tesla on the Model Y introduced basically a heat pump to drive, HVAC, heating and cooling in the winter, and that range can be, drastically improved by this. So it's an interesting move away from, the traditional having the HVAC driven by the electrical system and having a unique heat pump to the car. So we'll see how this does on the Model Y. I think that's a great addition, if anything, that can increase range in the car, because with EVs, it's all going to be about range, like whether that's the main selling point of the car, and the more you can get out of it, I think it reduces the range anxiety on normal people like me, because that people, when you buy an EV, like from my perspective, I'm coming from a gasoline car. Like gasoline stations are everywhere. One thing about internal combustion engine is that it's reliable. If I go on a road trip, it's cold, I don't have to worry about losing 40% efficiency in my car. I want to take a road trip, I want to go skiing. I don't want to always worry. And if I have a standard range or even a car like Nissan Leaf that has way less mileage range, I don't want to worry about losing about 30-40% of the range getting stuck somewhere when I'm, going up north. So I think to ease range anxiety, or, to normal people that are coming from gasoline engines, heck, for me, I worry about the gasoline, when it goes under 50%. So I'm a little bit worried with this car. If I'm driving anywhere, I might be paranoid. So this might be a little bit of a factor for me with this car. It's basically unknown. I'm coming from a gasoline engine. So yeah, let's go and, price out what this would look like. So as I said before, I'm looking to lease. So I think I have to get these wheels because they make the car look a lot better. So I'm gonna check this, keep going, and yeah, the lease looks reasonable, around $700 a month, with zero down. So I think that implies basically a 3 to 4% lease rate. I'll show you on the spreadsheet. So if I go over it in general, you can see like why do I like this car? I think first I want to lease. So the lease rate is actually pretty reasonable. It's around 3%. So it's comparable to Porsche. Right now with promotion, I think they offer me 3%. So Tesla's really done their homework to lower the price to essentially other competition like the Macan in the luxury market. So I think that they're very smart in terms of lowering the base price to where the Porsche is and the lease rate. And I think that's very smart of the company. So why do I like the car? Technology innovation's number one. It's got a cool factor, its badge, it's obviously prestige. I think the styling is amazing. Like they got the designer from Mazda a few years ago, and they've had a centralized look that they're applying to all the cars, and I think it's great personally. So I really love the look of it. Low maintenance. So they were telling me that I don't even have to spend like essentially nothing for maintaining the car over 4 years. We'll see if that's true, but they don't have any oil change, scheduled things. That's, new to me for coming from a gasoline engine. That sports car performance, 0 to 60 times that are insane. It's all wheel drive. So a lot of pros for this car. So it's kind of made it the front runner, especially if I was considering the Porsche Macan as a secondary. So what are the cons for this? I'm coming from gasoline engine, like just like other plebs, like public. I don't know much about EVs besides looking at this car. So the experience is going to be unknown to me. It's still pretty expensive, around 70K. But the only reason I would consider it now is because the maintenance is, essentially zero. So if you add the maintenance over 4 years to this car, the other cars, it's going to almost be on par. So that's where I thought Tesla, it becomes reasonable. They've done the math. They're pretty smart about it. It's a new model, the the fit and trims. It's unknown reliability essentially. And I think the main thing with EVs is this range anxiety. Like, can I get 500 kilometers in the winter? What happens if I take a road trip? What happens? Shit happens. So like, you always want to have, backup. There's superchargers and all this, and I can find a plug-in anywhere, but I've just never tried it, so it's unknown. So I think it's mass market now enough. So let's give it a try. Okay, thanks.